In this part, I'll show you how to export your rig file and animations. So I already have an animation of him jumping. I worked in 30 FPS. As you can see, the shadow moves a little bit, and when he is above the floor, I also scaled it down a bit. Great, so now I can export the animation. But first, let's export the rig separately. So here I am in my rig file with no animations. Basically, there are two methods to export animations to a game engine. The first one is to export both mesh and the joints with all of your animations. The other method is to export both the mesh and the joints as one file, then export each animation separately with only the joints. The second method saves memory and makes it much easier to go back and fix an animation. I'm going to show you the second method. I'll export my rig file first. In my project, I used file referencing for both my model and for my rig. If you don't know what file referencing is, I recommend you to check it because it can really save you tons of time during the pipeline. There are some great tutorials on YouTube about it. It has many uses, but basically what it does, it allows you to create a new scene in order to start working on your rig file, for example. Then you reference your model, and if you need to change something in your model later on, the rig will update itself with the new changes. Same for referencing a rig file for animations if something needs to be fixed in the rig file. So now I'll export my model and my joints as one FBX file to Unity. It is recommended to save another file for exporting, since it's a destructive process. Because I referenced my model, I'll need to import it first. So I'll go to File, and then Reference Editor. I'll just select the reference file and then go to File, Import Object from Reference. Reference file usually adds a namespace to your objects in the outliner. So I'll just get rid of it by going to Windows, General Editors, Namespace Editors. I'll then select my objects one by one and click on Delete, Merge with Root. The next step is to bake one frame for the joints. I have a complex rig with both FK and IK chains which I need to get rid of when I export because game engines have a problem with multiple chains. As I mentioned earlier, I named all my joints which should be in bind for export with the suffix _bn. Quick tip for selecting all your relevant joints quickly, I'll go to the Select by Name tab and type *bn and it will select the relevant joints that I want to bake. With everything selected, I'll go to Edit, Keys, Bake Simulation and click on the option box. Leave everything on default. In time range, choose Start End and type in from 0 to 1, then click Bake. After the bake, I'll go to the outliner and delete my FK-IK joint chains. Next step is to select the mesh and the joints for export. So I'll just select my joints group, the character's model, and the shadow plane. With everything selected, go to File, Export Selection. I basically leave everything on default. I do leave animation on, and in the baking animation settings, I put in from 0 to 1 once more, just in case. Everything else I just leave on default, and file type I choose binary. Then just save it somewhere. When I click export, I get some errors. Usually they are fine. The next step is to create a new scene. Do not save the export file. In the new scene, go to File, Import, and import your FBX file. I'll just get rid of the controller that's left. Then just select everything and go to Export Selection and override your previous one. No errors this time. Let's bake the animation. So once more, because it's a destructive process, make a new file and call it export. Now I'll just repeat the steps from the rig export. I'll import everything inside. I do not have a namespace for the joints, so I don't need to delete my namespace this time. In case you do have a namespace, make sure to delete them or else Unity won't be able to play your animations. The naming must be identical for both the rig file and the animations. The baking process is quite the same, only this time you want to choose in time range, time slider to bake your whole animation. Later I'll need to delete my FK-IK joints once more. This time I just need to select my joints from the outliner for export. When exporting your animation, in the file name, type in the name of the previous FBX file you exported, then the symbol A, then the name of your animation, in this case, jump. This way, Unity will be able to recognize your animation automatically. Awesome, now let's import both the model and the animation into Unity.